Hi, good morning. Good morning. Okay, sorry. Hi, everybody. Welcome back for day number 4. Okay, of Southeast Asia DeFi Week. We are right now. Sorry for the delay. It's right now 3:09 p.m. and we are broadcasting live from Asia Blockchain Center, right in the heart of KL City. We'd like to thank the Asia Blockchain Center, and as well as our many event partners from all over Southeast Asia who have made Southeast Asia DeFi Week possible. Now, there's a lot of names here, okay? We have friends from Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, and you will get to know all of them, okay, throughout the entire week. Now, very quickly, again, we need to be very clear on our disclaimers that we have a lot of content for you throughout the week. However, none of the content that is going to be shared with you throughout the week is to be considered as investment or financial advice. The reason why we run these Southeast Asia DeFi Week is because there's just so many fragmented pieces of DeFi information out there, and DeFi is moving really, really fast. You do not know what is real, what is fake, who is legit, who is full of not legit. So we are very lucky that we have an entire plethora and program of some of the most top DeFi projects and their founders to spend their time with us throughout Southeast Asia DeFi Week. Now let's do a quick recap, okay, for those who are just tuning in for the first time on the 4th day. What is DeFi? So DeFi is short for decentralized finance, okay? And the most simple definition that I can give for what that is, it's basically emerging financial products that you can use, but without intermediaries. And over the 7 days, okay, that we have programmed out, you get to learn so many of these projects. And over the last 3 days, we have already covered quite a lot. You have learned, okay, things, but I've been getting a lot of text messages over the last 3 days, okay, about things like, YAM, okay, the YAM token, or leverage, or how do I, create a liquidation bot, or etc., etc. Now, I want you to know that the purpose of DeFi Week, okay, is to give you enough basic, okay, understanding. Just need to know that DeFi is still very much, okay, in a very early stage. There's a lot of high risk and a lot of high uncertainties, okay, in this space. When we talk about YAM token, I'm doing a lot of active experimentation on my own, but I am acknowledging that I'm taking my own extreme high risk, okay? Just give you an example, okay, that these are the amount of transaction fees, okay, that I had paid yesterday, just to have a skin in the game so that I know, okay, and I can get to learn, okay, what's going on. And I have paid over $170 on just basically gas fees, making mistakes along the way. So, and I don't expect any of you to do the same. So you got to understand that these kinds of things is kind of like level 3, level 4 kind of that kind of level. So what is very important for those who are starting out right now in DeFi? The same thing applies. You need to get your fundamentals right. You need to understand, okay, things like, for example, what are cryptocurrencies? Not your keys, not your coins. How do you manage wallet security? What's going on? I can't change the slide. Right, there we go. So, but the idea of the DeFi Week, okay, is have your basics, understand the fundamentals, okay, of why do certain protocols have value, okay, how are they solving problems in the space, what are their value propositions, and you got to learn, okay, things like lending protocols, like Compound and Aave on the first day. You got to learn about liquidity pools and constant product market makers, constant product liquidity pools like Uniswap, where both of these protocols, okay, you can do a lot of things. You also got to learn about how DeFi works and how it's very, very different from centralized finance, what we are already familiar with. Like, for example, the first thing that it's by now it's very clear, is that in the DeFi space, in order to be able to get a loan in the DeFi space, it's not like this, like the traditional system where they do background checks on you and all that. In order to create a trustless environment, DeFi works with an over-collateralization of assets, in order for the entire DeFi space to always remain solvent. And it's all secured, by an openly verifiable ledger. So this kind of is very interesting because you don't need to, there's a saying that do not trust, verify. This is the new normal that's happening, and it's really, really emerging really fast in the space. You also got to learn, there's a lot of jargon in DeFi, but one of the things that you will hear a lot of is this term called money Legos, because these are what these projects are building on. DeFi is an extension, of what cryptocurrencies can do. Cryptocurrencies and stablecoins allow us to transact, allow us to receive, allow us to spend, in 5 very interesting ways, which is globally, openly, borderlessly, without censorship and without permission. However, what DeFi actually does for us, and we're seeing it right now, is that it extends these superpowers to give us the ability to borrow, to lend, and you learn about interest rate markets, Uniswap, interest-bearing coins by Aave, flash loans. These are all money Legos, and because of each and every one of these, what makes the DeFi space so interesting and so fast-moving is the fact that every time someone builds something that is very useful, because of the permissionless nature and the collaborative nature of the space, people are able to take this money Lego and that money Lego and then create something more, which is not common in the traditional finance space, where if you wanted to work with this bank or that bank, you don't see that kind of collaboration and cooperation, and that is what is happening right now. So for the next, we have 4 more days to go, and today we have an action-packed day. All right, today we're going to talk about Synthetix, Curve, and Balancer. Now you'll notice something, we need to make an adjustment. I just got a call from Michael Egroff, the founder of Curve, about an hour ago, and he had to apologize and push his session, to the evening. All right, so we are sorry for that, but he is still looking forward to join us, in the evening. So let's talk about Synthetix, all right? What is Synthetix? Synthetix is a very interesting platform that has gained a lot of traction over the last 6 to 12 months. And what it basically is a platform where you can that issues synthetic assets on the Ethereum blockchain. And basically anything that has a price feed, you can actually, Synthetix can create a synthetic asset from, so that you can gain exposure from that asset. These synthetic assets, on the Synthetix platform are called Synths, and they could be a synth for a particular crypto, or for a commodity, or for a stock. Coming soon, Tesla or Apple shares, could be gold, or an index. And they also have a Synthetix exchange, where you can trade the synthetic assets. And they have really, really cool documentation where you can read about, what is behind the scenes, and how all these synthetic assets, how does Synthetix actually create these synthetic assets. All these are open source. It's really, really cool. Recommend, that for those who want to understand it deeply, to go and just access, this page, and have a look, of what are the available existing synthetic assets they have created. And to help us to learn a little bit more, about the platform, we are very lucky, that we have Kane Warwick. He is the founder of Synthetix, and he is calling in, okay, from Australia right now to be with us. Thank you so much, okay, for being here with us today, Kane.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I really appreciate you having me on the program.
So the first question that I would like to ask you, okay, is that over the last 6 months, DeFi has gained so much traction, and Synthetix is among one of the top DeFi projects with Compound, okay, with Link, Chainlink, with Aave, where people are just seeing you guys as like this shiny object, okay, of success, right? And I think a lot of people, okay, in the groups right now in Southeast Asia, they see, because of the parabolic growth, okay, in the space, they see a lot of similarities, okay, with what's happening in 2017. Can you give us an idea of what is the headspace, okay? How are you handling, okay, this parabolic growth? As a team, are you, like doing fist bumps, okay, like every single morning, okay, secretly, or like popping the champagnes and buying Lambos?
No, I don't think we've gotten there yet. I think my mindset. I've been a founder for a long time, and I joined my first startup, I think, as like employee number 4 when I was 20, and that was in 2001. So it's going back a while ago now. And so, one thing that I always say to my team is that you can't treat anything, any startup ups and downs as real, right? You need to focus on the outcomes that you want to get, and you need to focus on the goals that you have. And the reality is, in all of DeFi, it's just the beginning. We still have so much work to do. It's great that there's a lot of excitement out there about what we're doing. We've been grinding it out for the last 2.5 years, without too many people paying attention. So it is nice to get some validation, but there's still a lot to do.
That's right. So one of the things that a lot of people just seem to do is that they assume that all these DeFi projects are overnight success. Can you share with us a little bit about how old is the Synthetix project? When do you guys started? And what was the first thing that you guys, the genesis, okay, of why you created what you created?
So Synthetix actually came from an earlier project. I mean, it's the same project, but we rebranded and pivoted. It was a pretty large pivot from a stablecoin project. So my previous role, I started a company in Australia called Blueshift, and that company was a payment gateway, essentially a fiat gateway, for a bunch of different businesses, including almost all of the crypto exchanges in Australia. So going back to 2014, 2015, we were enabling people to buy Bitcoin and then eventually Ether. And I think I got more and more interested in the crypto space as the market started to kind of get more interested in Australia through 2016. And at the end of 2016, I saw an opportunity to create essentially a decentralized stablecoin that would allow us to solve some of the payment rails issues that we were seeing. So banks are not friendly with crypto. I think everyone kind of knows that. But back then, they were even more unfriendly. They were really trying to shut us down. Find out anything that any crypto related company was doing and disconnect accounts, and any pressure they could put on us, they were putting. So, that led me to this idea of creating this decentralized stablecoin network, which we launched in 2017. We did a token sale in 2018, and then we pivoted when we got to the end of 2018 to Synthetix.
All right. So we have another question. Okay, I think this one is from Indonesia, right? This question, okay, is, can you help give clarity, okay? Because we had Keep yesterday. We had Keep, Caroline from the Keep team, and they are bringing Bitcoin to Ethereum, for example, right? TBTC. But what is the difference, okay, between that and say, for example, SBTC, for example, okay, that's built on the Synthetix? Because there's like a lot going on, and there's PBTC, there's SBTC, there's REN BTC. Can you help to give some clarity on that?
Of course. So I think, Synthetix, it's important to point out that we are a synthetic way to get price exposure to something, right? So we don't custody Bitcoin in cold storage and tokenize it. We don't custody it, in a multi-sig or some decentralized process. So I think there's kind of three ways you can get exposure to Bitcoin on Ethereum. You can have something like wrapped BTC, right?
Yes.
Where you have, BitGo says we will hold on to your Bitcoin very securely, and we'll give you a token that represents it on Ethereum, which is fine. It's a little bit like USDC, like Tether, this idea of, a custodian who says, we've got the asset and here's a tokenized representation. And, those projects have done really well, right? USDC, Tether are huge, obviously. Tether a little more controversial, but, still they've done very well. They add a lot of utility to the space. But I think the next progression are projects like REN and Keep, where they're trying to create non-custodial tokenized representations. So it's still, Bitcoin is locked, on the Bitcoin chain, but it's locked in a multi-sig process or decentralized process. So it's secure. We say we don't even need to lock the Bitcoin. We will just give you an asset that tracks the price of Bitcoin via price oracle. So There's no Bitcoin security at all, right? Now, there's different risk profiles and different trade-offs, but it's a different approach completely to those other two.
Got it. Basically, there are three ways, okay, of doing it, okay, and Synthetix is just one way of it. You guys use price feeds, okay, to basically create the virtual representation of the Bitcoin. So when people buy a SBTC, what is the minting process like? Okay, is that sorry if I'm asking the wrong question. Is there a minting process of how SBTCs are created?
Yeah, so the way that SBTC is created is you need another synthetic asset within the Synthetix ecosystem, which typically someone would buy synthetic USD, right? That would be the easiest way. So you'd go to Uniswap or Curve or one of the AMMs, right? And Michael will talk about Curve, but you go to one of these dexes and you say, I would like to trade my stable coins or my BTC or ETH or whatever into SUSD, which is a synthetic asset. Once you have SUSD, you can go to Synthetix Exchange and you can convert that into synthetic Bitcoin. And in the background, what's happening is the contracts are just changing the price feed that those tokens are attached to.
So one of the things, okay, that I really, really enjoyed, okay, was reading one of your recent blog posts. And I will drop the link, okay, for all the community to in the group chat in a bit. Okay, what you did was that you written, I think, you write quite a lot actually, but you wrote two particular things. One is the state of Synthetix, and then followed by the roadmap, okay, of Synthetix. And I noticed, okay, one of the things you said, okay, is that there's just so many things, okay, that is happening in the DeFi space that it's really hard to keep track, okay, of all the things that you guys are doing, okay, to create into one coherent narrative. But can you try to maybe like break down, like what are the one to three like biggest product market fits, okay, that you guys have managed to find since you guys started?
So I think if you go back to kind of the high level goal of what we're trying to do, we're basically saying we want anyone anywhere in the world who has access to a mobile phone, a smartphone, to be able to have price exposure to any asset, right? That's essentially, with some caveats and some restrictions, but that's essentially what we're trying to do. So the question is, okay, great. That's a very lofty goal and it's very far away. How do we get there? And one of the things that we need to do in order to get there is we need to get to a point where Ethereum, the platform that we're built on, is scalable. So we need to implement some kind of scaling technology. I'm looking at right now, the cost of a transaction, even just to send ETH right now, I think is, $5 or $10 or something like that,
yes.
Right? That doesn't work for someone who is maybe in the Philippines who wants to send, $100, cross border or something like that, right? So I think that's a fundamental issue that we're dealing with right now, which is, it's a good problem to have in one sense. There's so much demand to use Ethereum that the prices to use it have gone up a lot, but there are things that we can do to fix it. So one thing is scalability. We need to get scalability to a point where it works. The second thing is at the moment, we've been on this path from the beginning of the project where it was just one person, me, with an idea, building a team and kind of, growing the project to where it is today. And throughout that path, we've gone from, one single person to now tens of thousands of people in the community, right? And that progress of, going from a very centralized one person has an idea to something that's fully owned by a community is a process that's critical. In order for the true value of this platform to be realized, for the protocol to be realized, we need to get that to that scale of decentralized governance. So that's another component. And then the final component is there's still product level features that are to be developed. So synthetic futures, we've got improvements to our synthetic options. We've got improvements to other aspects of the protocol. So we have these kind of three things that we're working on. One is continuing to build the product. Two is ensuring that it is a decentralized and governed by the community. And the third is making sure that it is accessible, and that we're on a scalable platform.
Right. So since you have touched on this particular topic, right? Okay, I think one of the things that is really, really unfamiliar to Asia, okay, is DAOs, right? So I have participated in some DAOs over the last 12 months, and my experience has been, I'm sorry to say, I'll just be direct right now, okay, and says that it hasn't been very, very good, because very often when you participate in a DAO, it often turns out to be a really, really noisy village, kind of like, when you go into a call and nothing gets done. You get what I mean? It's very frustrating. How do you manage that, okay, to transition yourself, okay, from a company, okay, where you need to have really, really fast iterations, okay, to right now you have decommissioned the foundation and now you have split Synthetix into like 3 functioning DAOs. How do you do that?
It's hard. It's not an easy process, right? So, there's 3 DAOs. One is the Grants DAO, which is probably the most decentralized. It's got a very broad cross section of the community. And there's been times where it's been a total shit show. It's an experiment, right? And there's been times where it's been painful within the Grants DAO. There's been, confusion. There's been diffusion of responsibility. There's been frustration of different people and not having the right infrastructure. It is a hard process to kind of build that out. The second DAO, which is the protocol DAO, which governs the protocol, is also fairly diverse in terms of the members of that DAO, but it's only 7 people. There's only 7 people in that DAO, right? So it's not like there are 7,000 people. And the way that we manage it is we say, okay, there's 7 people who are responsible for upgrading the protocol. Like ultimately the power to upgrade the protocol rests in their hands, and they need to agree on a protocol change. There's the community governance process, which uses rough consensus. And we've got a framework that's modeled off the EIP process and several other open source improvement proposal processes. So we've got the Synthetix improvement proposals, and anyone can submit a proposal. They say, I think we should do X, right? And then that person is responsible for building consensus around that change, advocating for it. And that's political. It's a political process to kind of, govern it and get it through. And eventually get to a point where we think that there's enough consensus that we should do this thing, that we will open up a poll, essentially, to determine whether there's consensus. This is not an on-chain vote. This is not let's vote on-chain. This is a poll to get a temperature check of, is this the right thing to do? And if that poll passes, then the next step is it's handed to the protocol DAO to essentially implement it and deploy it to mainnet. And so right. It's a slow process, and there's a number of steps.
It's not the same as the other projects, because and I think that probably this is a good opportunity to segue a little bit, because Compound, okay, I think that there's general consensus that Compound, when they launched their governance token, it is the reason why it created, okay, the the craze, okay, that the hype that we are seeing today, the traction and the yield farming. But I was listening to a podcast and by the Bankless Nation, and Andre from Wi-Fi, right? He
Yeah, Wi-Fi, yeah.
credited Wi-Fi. He credited you, okay. He credited Synthetix for the reason, okay, for creating yield farming slash liquidity mining. You guys were the first, okay. Is that true?
It is
Do you
roughly
take credit
true.
for that?
Roughly true. It's roughly true. So I don't personally take credit for it. There were, it was a community discussion, right? And
Right.
there were multiple people, community members who are now have fairly high profiles, like Arthur Zero X, for example, who are on the anti side. We said we don't want to do this. We think it's a bad idea. We don't know what the consequences might be of incentivizing these pools, right, to create liquidity. But eventually, the discussion came up multiple times. There were a number of reasons why it didn't make sense, and why we were worried about unintended consequences. And then we eventually, I think this is going back to early 2019, we got to a point where we said, you know what, I think the right model is to incentivize the SETH, so synthetic ether, and ETH pool, right? And we decided to run an incentive on that, and that was the first sort of liquidity mining incentive, I think, that was like external to a protocol, where Synthetix was paying people to put liquidity into Uniswap,
Right.
which was like this composability on steroids thing. But if you go all the way back to late 2018, early 2019, when we started paying people, when we changed the monetary policy of Synthetix and started paying people to stake in SNX rewards, I think that's the first example of yield farming and liquidity mining, in DeFi, at least. There were some earlier things, on the centralized exchange front. There were some things around like Merkle mining and stuff that went on, but I think within DeFi, that was the first example. So, we'll take some credit, some credit, I think.
So what I got from that, okay, is that you saw this as as an experiment, okay, to incentivize and reward, okay, your users with the NXX, with the Synthetix token. Can we talk about the Synthetix token, okay, and what it actually is used for, okay, in your ecosystem?
So Synthetix is one of those weird tokens that does things, right? Now it's normal, right, for tokens to do things. But if you go back to 2017, 2018, most tokens did not do very much, right? There was this model of it's going to be a fixed supply token and it's going to be used to pay for some weird thing in some weird ecosystem that no one lives in. And that was kind of the extent, right, of the token design. We had this idea that we would make this token the collateral, the core collateral within the network, and also the asset that accrued all of the fees from activity within the network. That was the idea. It wasn't very effective, right? It was in some ways not a great idea because we weren't able to bootstrap and get the flywheel going. And so the change that we made in 2019 to create inflation rewards to pay stakers before the network had gotten going was what I think really started the kind of movement, right? And then Compound launching Comp and really changing the game by creating this pure governance token that didn't capture revenue, that didn't have any sort of value accrual, and allowing governance to work that process out in the open. I think that was kind of a genius move that I didn't see coming, and I don't think a lot of people saw coming. And I think that really opened the floodgates to, tokens can do these amazing things. They can be used for coordination, and they can bootstrap projects really effectively.
So we have a question from Malaysia. It's Yong. Okay, he asked the question: any plans to allow users to create their synthetic assets or their baskets?
So the governance process allows for the creation and proposal of new synthetic assets. So someone could come and say, we want to make, a synthetic version of Stellar, right? Lumens or something like that. If that went through, I don't think that's a good idea necessarily, but you could do it, right? And if that went through the governance process and was approved, and the underlying asset and the markets that it operates in, were sufficiently liquid, then it could be added, and you would have SXLM, right?
Right.
So that's one way. In terms of creating new baskets, that's a little bit harder. So we have SDeFi and we have SX, which is the centralized exchange token basket.
Right.
Creating a new basket requires a little bit more overhead, but the same process could be used. But what's interesting is we're now getting second layer protocols being built on Synthetix. So DHedge is a good example, where DHedge allows you to actually create a basket of synthetic assets that's auto rebalancing. SEP protocol is looking to potentially start integrating some synthetic assets. So I think there's some really cool stuff that's coming up.
So there's one of the things, okay, that so when you say that anyone can actually make a proposal, okay, that to create a new synthetic asset, and what is important is that that ecosystem has enough traction and liquidity. I would think that in Malaysia we have a pretty in Southeast Asia we have a pretty Hive community. Are you aware of the Hive project?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if enough people in the Hive community were to because they are earning all these rewards, right? Okay, of writing content, posting YouTube's videos on their social media, on the Hive network. If they wanted, okay, to access, okay, DeFi space, okay, that's possible. What you're saying is that that is actually something that is possible. Somebody can actually come in and learn about Synthetix first, of course, okay, and after understanding, okay, the ropes, okay, then submit a proposal, okay, probably to their DAO to say that, hey, take a look at this, okay, let's create a synthetic asset, okay, for our thing so that we can do stuff, okay, in the Ethereum network. Is that possible?
That's correct. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is, okay, let's say you did that. Let's say you created, S Hive, right? How do you create liquidity between the native token and the synthetic, right? That's the other question, right? And so, typically that requires some kind of bridge or, maybe, some kind of centralized exchange that creates a market for it. But these things are possible, right? So we expect that, eventually we'll have synthetic Bitcoin to Bitcoin liquidity on centralized exchanges. We'll have some different we already have synthetic Bitcoin to wrapped Bitcoin and Ren BTC in Curve. There's deep liquidity in there. So you can trade, 1,000 BTC if you want, across there and with very little slippage.
I feel that we are really just touching on the surface, okay? And I know that because from reading your articles, that you are a person who is very, very grounded. Okay, I would remember one quote that you would say that because this person actually, I met this person last year in Singapore, and he says that the purpose of decentralized finance is to become finance. And then immediately after when he made that statement, I read your article in I think 2019 last year, and you said, okay, that while we like to, why not you tell us, okay, what do you think about that when people say, okay, decentralized finance, okay, the goal is to become finance?
I mean, finance has structural inefficiencies as it stands now, right? So I mean, what TradFi, traditional finance is and DeFi are just different approaches to the same problem, realistically, right? We're trying to work out, how do you allocate capital? How do you, structure various, assets to achieve a certain aim? All of these things are the same broad, category of interactions and activities. And so the question, I guess, then sort of comes, which is the best way to do it? Now, the traditional way has been going on for, hundreds of years, maybe, decades if you talk about, high frequency trading and things like that. But, the traditional way has a very long history, right? Of, you create a firm. It's a centralized company. People can own equity in it, own shares in it. And that firm goes out and tries to do something, right? And what's interesting, I think, when you look at traditional finance is that it's not perfect. There are large inefficiencies in this approach, right? Things can become captured. There's capture of regulatory areas as well, and the other direction when a large company captures regulators, right? It's the opposite of what we worry about in DeFi, of regulators capturing, us. But it goes both ways, right? And so it's very possible for large market participants to use their power to create unfair competition and barriers to entry and all kinds of things. And I think what DeFi says is, we are able to create a structure which removes these barriers to entry. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing all this experimentation. People can come in, they've got all of the tools, they've got all these contracts, they can wire them together in novel ways. And we're seeing, craziness, and there's this kind of DeFi Cambrian explosion. And I think that's all fine. That's all fine. Everyone's excited about it. It's really cool. But, through this experimentation, we will find some things that work, and we'll find some new mechanisms that ultimately, I believe, will be a more efficient way of doing the things that traditional finance has been doing. And we will eventually have some hybrid structure where it's all just finance, and TradFi and DeFi comes together to form some new approach to these problems.
So we have one question, okay, which is, I think, from Thailand. And the question is about, I think it's quite a popular question. So the question is, so Synthetix is built on Ethereum, and it's like really getting a lot of traction right now. However, as DeFi, becomes more and more commonplace, and common knowledge, game theory, and more people get inspired and say, oh, we can do this, we can do that. However, there are other blockchains, okay, which are also interesting, like Polkadot, Cosmos, that they are like building their own thing. Is Synthetix married, okay, to Ethereum, okay, or is how would it? What is what is the relationship, okay, moving forward, okay, if let's say, for example, Polkadot, okay, is like has another kind of synthetic asset issuance platform that's similar. Somebody built something there.
I think they will, right? And you're seeing that, on blockchains like Tron. There's Oikos, which is a sort of fork of Synthetix that's running on Tron. There's things that are like, similar to Maker, Compound, already, starting up on these competing L1 chains. My view is that I think L2 scalability on Ethereum is much closer than people think. And, all things being equal, you add scalability to Ethereum without, too many trade-offs. And I think it's going to be very, very hard for something like a Polkadot or a Cosmos or whatever to unseat it. There's maybe, I think, 3rd gen or 4th gen blockchains as well, like Solana, and Near Protocol and stuff like that people are excited about. But my sense is that replicating what we've got on Ethereum is going to be very, very difficult. And we tested this. We looked at porting to EOS back in 2018, and after about 6 months or so, maybe a little bit less, we abandoned the project because the infrastructure wasn't there, the tooling wasn't there, the community wasn't there, and it was just a poor investment of time and effort, and we decided to focus all of our efforts on Ethereum, and we're very happy that was the right call.
So I think that the next question is that when it comes to a lot of people, okay, when they tend to criticize, okay, that the user experience, okay, is still very, very bad, and I kind of think that the user experience is not bad. It has actually improved a lot. Actually, it's just that the gas fees are a huge barrier to the more, even if someone listening in right now, okay, is like new to DeFi and wanted to like experiment the barrier is like really, really high because the gas fees are like so expensive, particularly in Southeast Asia. What are your thoughts, okay, about the user experience that we are seeing in right now in the space?
So I think cost is a part of the user experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I say, hey, I've got this, amazing amusement park. It's got like the most, the best rides in the world, the best food, the best everything, and it's so good. We've spent so much money and time, and everything's perfect, and it just costs $1 million to come in. Like, that is not a good user experience, right? It may be great in there, but if you priced out 99.99% of the world from experiencing it, then the user experience is obviously not going to be great. You're not going to be able to get the most utility out of that thing that you built, right? And the problem that we have is we built this amazing amusement park, right? We built this amazing infrastructure in Ethereum, and there's so much demand for it now that it can't cope with it. And I think it's caught a lot of us by surprise. We thought that maybe high prices, but not insane prices, would be sustainable for a while. And so I think a lot of us are really looking to aggressively port to layer 2 chains. So we're working with the OVM team. So Optimism has a platform called the OVM, which is formerly the Plasma Group. So a lot of people probably heard about Plasma Group back in the day. They now have an optimistic rollups approach, which is very powerful. We've done a demo with them. The UX was much better because it was both faster and cheaper, which is important, right? You can't just have one. You can't be faster but way more expensive, or cheap and super slow. You need to get both of them right. And so I think that we will, in the next 3 to 6 months, get that right.
All right, we have only about 5 to 10 minutes left, okay, before we end the session. So I think we have about the questions are coming in right now really, really fast.
I'll try and be quick.
Okay.
I'll try and be quick.
All right, the first one, okay, is from Leslie Daniel Chan. He's from Singapore. He asks, no chance. Okay, will you consider, no chance. All right.
No chance.
The second question, okay, is from Chanel Chua. I think she's from the Philippines. She says, are there any plans to make it cheaper to claim and mint?
100%.
Okay, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
What is currently in the works? Because, we have other projects that are also that we have had over the last few days. And everybody seems to be working, okay, to help reduce gas fees. But even if, let's say, for example, you found a way to optimize, okay, your smart contracts or whatnot, and reduce the gas fees, okay, by 20%. But if the demand...
Not enough. It's not enough. When it costs $5 to send ETH, you can't get a cheaper transaction than sending ETH on Ethereum, right? So $5 is still too expensive. So the only way forward is L2. Right now. So we need L2 solutions, either zero knowledge rollups, zero knowledge proofs, or optimistic rollups. And we've chosen optimistic rollups. And so what we're planning to do for Chanel and other small SNX holders is we will hopefully very soon have a pseudo mainnet. So it'll be a sort of constrained mainnet where you will be able to stake, and the fees will be much, much lower. And you'll still be able to claim SNX. You'll still be able to participate in the ecosystem. So we're working on it. It's a huge, huge priority for us.
All right. So let's see. Now, okay. So I think 2 more questions. Okay. The first question is you've explained very well. Okay. The state of Synthetix and a very clear roadmap. Okay. What's coming up there. But I think the community would like to know, okay, what, in your opinion, is the state of DeFi right now? Is it in a healthy state, okay, with so much like YAM and all this going on every single day for 2 hours of sleep, if you're lucky?
So, I mean, I spent at least 4 hours today and on just an insane amount of gas and ETH trying to save the YAM industry. So, I'm a big fan of the project. I think it's a really cool project. And I think that these sort of, pseudo gamified incentive mechanisms that are really distilled down to their essence are very interesting, right? Because when you distill them down to the core, you see which incentives are powerful, which ones are not, and how to leverage them. And so I think that that these experiments and these sort of financial games that we're seeing emerge are really interesting, and they're exciting. But ultimately, you've got to take a step back and say, things like Aave, things like Compound, things like Uniswap, things like Curve. Those are the core pieces of infrastructure that we're building and are amazing and super exciting. These other things that people are excited about around incentive structures and stuff, I think are very interesting. But they need to be kind of rolled into the rest of the DeFi ecosystem.
All right. So last question, okay, and I think this question it's for you, right? So we've asked you, okay, all this. Why not you tell us, okay, like what can we do for you as a community in Southeast Asia? Anyone listening in from Vietnam, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia right now? What does Synthetix need right now, and how can we help you?
Yeah, so I think one thing that we've been focused on, is expanding our reach outside of, let's say Western countries, the US and Europe, and in Australia, obviously we're in, we're part of APAC, right? And so we spend a lot of time in Singapore. We've got a great community in Singapore, but we probably haven't done as good a job as we could have, I think, in communicating the Synthetix story, right, and the Synthetix value prop to Southeast Asia. And so we have a great Discord. We've got multi-language channels in there, and we also have translated versions of a lot of the dApps, right? But we need community members to maintain them. So we need community members to step up and say, I will help to translate the white paper. I'll help to translate the dApps. Right. And so I think if we want to kind of bridge the gap and start building these communities, we need educational material that is accessible and native to that community. So if you're interested, please come and help us to build out that infrastructure.
All right, this is going to shout out, okay, to our friends in Vietnam, okay, the community dev. Viewfin, okay, a shout out, okay, to our community in the Philippines, okay, Blockchain Space, okay, Blocktides, and BlueMax. All right, this is a call right now, okay. Our friends, okay, in Indonesia, Crypto Watch, Coin Investasi, blockchainmedia.id, okay. This is, and our friends, okay, in Thailand, okay, the Dash Network. All right, there's a lot of opportunity in the DeFi space. Do tread carefully. Do learn, okay. Take your time, okay. DeFi is not going to go anywhere. It is moving really, really fast, okay. I hope that you guys have gained a lot, okay. I'm sure that you guys have, okay. And please leave, okay, a comment, okay, in the chat, okay, if you have enjoyed this session, okay, with Kane, so that Kane knows, okay, that he feels welcome and he'll be back, okay, to join us some more in the future. So thank you so much, Kane, okay, for spending, okay, 1 hour with us, okay, to really get to know, because it's really, really hard, okay, to for people to gain access to what's real, what's not, okay, especially in Southeast Asia, where what the main core, okay, of why we do what we do is because we're just worried that with so much traction, we would see the repeat of 2017, okay, we'll see the scammers, right, okay, so we're just taking a proactive, effort, okay, to basically shout a bit louder and see whether that works. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I think that, the final point that maybe I'll leave you with is, the big difference between 2017 and 2020 is in 2017, there was very little that was actually real. Very little was happening, right? You couldn't go and use something. The protocols weren't live. I think we've shifted to this much more experimental, which is dangerous, right? But, so we need to be very wary of it, because there's high risks. Much more experimental approach. But these things are real and live, and you can go and use them and learn about them, right? So I think that that's a big improvement over the last market cycle, and it's something that I think we learned through the bear market is you need to be building. It can't just be a fluffy white paper.
I'm really, really happy, okay, for the Synthetix project, okay, what you guys are doing. I'm a huge fan, okay. We'll do our best, okay, to get as many fans, users, okay, people who will just sing, okay, and champion, okay, the project in Southeast Asia for you. it's like we just don't want, people to basically treat you like, a green candle. Yeah, very good Synthetix. Red candle. Oh, you're
Yeah.
scam.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much for being here today. Okay, you have a great day, and I hope that things go smooth. Okay, for Synthetix. Okay, we'll all be more active. Okay, in your Discord channel.
Awesome. Thank
Right.
you, Jason. Really appreciate it.
Right. Okay. But okay. So before we end the session today. Okay. Just want to let you guys know that we have to make an adjustment, okay, because it's just really crazy what's happening in the DeFi space right now. And Michael Igorov apologized; he could not make it, okay, at the scheduled time. So, but he will be with us, okay, in the evening tonight, okay, at 8 p.m. We are going to be talking about Curve 1 hour earlier, and then after that, Balancer with Fernando Martinelli. So come back here, okay, and join us at 8 p.m. same time today for part 2 of day 4. With that, okay, thank you very much, and see you guys tonight.